I can remember last fall, we were boarding a bus to go down to Chicago to support the striking teachers. So I love this corridor of solidarity in the Midwest.
Editor's note, Corridor of Solidarity. Great title for the piece.
I believe it's a 3-mile walk from here. From here to the other school. We're going to the Forest Home School where the rally will be.
I think this march is sending a message that public education is a civil right, and the threats to that in Milwaukee, we've had voucher schools for 20 years and charter schools as well, and what it's shown us is that turning our schools over to the marketplace isn't helping, and that we need to invest more in our public schools, because public schools are the ones that will serve all children, and we know that vouchers and charters do not.
I spent most of my career in Milwaukee Public Schools, but I am proud to serve in Shorewood. If you're from any other school district across the state of Wisconsin, make some noise. That's the story of today. It's the story of suburban and urban school districts coming together for one reason. Every kid in this state deserves a great public school education.
There's some controversy, as you may well know, going on here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, with the teachers here.
My understanding is they're trying to remove control from a board that has a say. They're trying to remove several public schools from being able to be controlled by that board in one of many moves going on right now to further and further privatize the schools and the whole educational process.
I'm going to tell you, it's more of them than us. Oh yeah.
For example, this same type of move was already done down in New Orleans.
And Philadelphia, and Detroit, and in many cities of similar size across this nation, where hundreds of thousands of students, when you think about it, who we hear are guaranteed the civil and human right of a quality education, are already have not been receiving it, and this is going to make the job of teachers and all of the staff who are committed and dedicated to teaching the next generation of students even harder, because private schools, as we know, do not have the responsibility and mission to educate every member of the next generation of our society. So it's a time where we have to come out in the greatest possible numbers, educate everyone who works for a living, to be involved in this struggle to defend, our economic, social, and civil rights. And that's why we're here. And we have the backing of our entire local, and in fact, the entire state AFSCME, which represents tens of thousands of workers who are public workers in the state of Illinois, are all behind the effort of teachers and others to defend public education here in Milwaukee.
Essentially, the Chamber of Commerce, the business leaders have decided that that there should be a takeover, essentially, of the district, where they'll take the lower performing schools and create what they're calling a recovery district. In fact, they brought in, people from New Orleans to essentially tell them how it's done, how to create a privatized district. So that's a serious threat that we're pushing back against right now.
Well, I think what's one of the biggest threats is obviously the historical foundation of public schools. As we know, public schools were created in order to bring an education to absolutely everyone, where you've got the society supporting the education. And right now what we're seeing is a definite attack on the rights of education as far as race and creed and color go. But mainly what we're going to see is that if the destruction of public schools were to occur, we're going to see a huge divide of the haves and the have-nots, and we're going to be right back to where we've been 100 years ago, where everybody has to have a right to education, and we're going to really be going through a struggle. So that's why we're all out here today.
Excellent. What are they proposing for some of the Milwaukee schools that are not doing so great on the standardized testing?
Well, I mean, that's what's interesting is that they haven't really been clear about that. They just want to use words as saying that they are failing schools. But I think when you see a number of people out here like this, you would talk to each one of these people and say, absolutely not, that is not the case, because when people go into the classroom and see that the kids are learning and the teachers are teaching, their rhetoric is all wrong.
So, you're a staffer with the MTTA.
Yes.
How does this figure into being, a union issue? Why are unions concerned about the degradation of public education?
Sure. Well, I mean, one of the things that we do as a union is obviously we support the professionality of the profession, where people have to have a teaching license in order to educate our students, because the students deserve somebody who has had that background and gone through that training and has gone through the process so that they are committed to it. In the private schools, that is not the case. And they basically believe that if you got a passion for kids, you can teach. And a passion for kids is first and foremost, but also following through and getting that licensure is what really makes it a profession. So we support that.
So what do you feel is really behind then this sort of move towards privatization, if it's not about making sure they have a quality education?
Sure. I mean, I think what we're seeing is that there's a lot of funding that's gone into the testing. There are so many private companies that are making millions of dollars off of public schools because they can push their testing programs into the classroom. What we're finding in K-5 classrooms is they're missing up to a month's worth of education just being pushed through standardized testing. So a K-5 kid losing out on a month's worth of lessons in their classroom is significant, and it's setting up our kids for failure.
Well, I think at this point, what's going on in education nationwide is a huge problem. There's a big move to privatize education, to destroy the public school system, and this is going on in not only Chicago, but cities like Milwaukee and a lot of the big cities where there's a high poverty rate, a lot of social problems. And instead of addressing those social problems, we're destroying community schools that are anchors for communities that are already struggling. I think it's just really important that teachers stick together throughout the country. The Chicago Teachers Union is a strong union. What we did last year was amazing, and I think we need to reach out to other communities and for teachers to come together to support one another, and parents to come together, and students to come together as well. So we just want to come out and show our support.
What have you heard about what they're trying to pull here in Milwaukee?
What I've heard is that they're trying to do a New Orleans type revamping of education, which is basically getting rid of parts of the Milwaukee school district and kind of destroying it and privatizing, making it easier to bring in charter schools to replace traditional public schools. I'm a citywide school social worker,
okay.
So I do go into the classroom some. I see kids in small groups, individuals in the classroom.
So you're part of what they're talking about when they say wraparound social services.
Yes, we definitely need a lot more wraparound services. Some of the issues these kids are dealing with makes it really difficult for them to learn. They need a lot of social emotional support. We do have some of that in Chicago, but we're very under-resourced. I'm in 2 schools. I'm the only social worker. We have a very high caseload, and we do the best we can, but kids need more support than what they're getting. They need a lot of mental health services. I think that I was not very aware of a lot of the union issues until the strike last year. So I was in the union, but my sort of awakening in terms of politically and what's going on with education and the Chicago Teachers Union didn't really happen until the strike. So I wasn't very aware, I have to say, in 2010.
So you're saying it was kind of an energizing event for you?
It was very energizing. It taught me a lot more about the union and a lot more, I would have to say, about what is going on in education nationwide. I really wasn't very aware until the strike.
So do you feel moving forward then? How do you feel about the union and about these issues sort of moving forward into the future?
I feel very positively about the union. I think most teachers do, as was clear in the vote to strike and so much solidarity. I'm hopeful, but I do think that the trend nationwide of education is very scary right now, and that you know, the Chicago Teachers Union is strong, but we also need to encourage a lot of solidarity with different unions, with other teachers unions. So I'm hopeful.
I go to Pulaski High School, and I'm here today because public education is a civil right, and I will not give up.
We're here today to support public education. Our group recognizes that public education is under attack in Wisconsin, and we see corporations coming into our schools, not supporting students' rights, and we're also here to be unified with the teachers, with the parents, and with all the students.